Welcome back, everyone. Glad to have you with us for another deep dive. Today, we're really going for it. Prepping.
Okay.
Yeah, prepping. We're diving headfirst into the world of, surviving what's coming. That's the website we're looking at. And, I've got to say, the whole prepping thing always kind of seemed like, I don't know, a bit much, like some out of those doomsday prepper shows,
Right. Those shows can be a bit intense.
Intense is a good word for it. So, for those of us who haven't quite built our underground bunkers yet, what's the deal with this surviving what's coming site? What's the main takeaway?
You're right. Prepping does have a certain reputation. But what's interesting about this website, this Surviving What's Coming, it's less about, hiding from the world and more about, I guess you could say it's more about practical preparedness.
Practical preparedness. Okay. I like that.
It's about acknowledging that, hey, life throws curveballs. Sometimes those curveballs are a bit bigger than others. And it's about, not being caught completely off guard.
So not necessarily doomsday bunkers and gas masks then?
Not necessarily. Although, hey, if that's your thing.
To each their own, right? But let's bring it back to surviving what's coming. How do they actually define prepping?
They're all about anticipating those disruptions, those curveballs we talked about, and actually, getting ready for them. Think about it, the Great Depression, right? Those who had put aside a little extra, learned some skills, they were more resilient, more able to weather the storm.
It's that whole teach a man to fish idea, being able to adapt and overcome.
Exactly, being self-sufficient. So this site, they're not just advocating for stockpiling supplies, it's about building that resilient mindset.
Got it. Okay, so we're talking about being ready for those curveballs.
Yeah.
But be specific. What kind of things are we actually preparing for here?
Well, according to Surviving What's Coming, there are 3 big ones to consider. 1, health risks, like pandemics.
Okay, that one hits a little close to home after the last few years.
For sure. But then 2, you've got political unrest, which, let's be honest, feels like it's been on the rise globally.
Yeah, that's tough to argue with.
And the third
one, it's a big one, a potential economic collapse.
Okay. Those are some pretty significant curveballs, not exactly your run-of-the-mill power outage.
No, not at all. And that's where the site's tagline really comes into play. It's not a matter of if a disaster will strike, but when.
Right. That's definitely sobering. It makes you realize that the unexpected, as much as we'd like to ignore it, is always a possibility.
And that's why, as this Dex M, the site creator, argues, the best times to prepare are 10 years ago and today. There's no time like the present to get started, even small steps.
So where do we start? Where do we even begin with all of this?
Surviving What's Coming breaks it down into 3 main areas: education, preparation, and this one's crucial, collaboration.
Okay, so first up, education. What does that entail in this context? Basically, understanding the potential risks and then figuring out how to handle them. Read up on survival techniques, learn basic first aid, maybe look into water purification methods. Knowledge is power in these situations.
So it's about equipping yourself with information first and foremost.
Exactly. Because once you have the knowledge, then you can move on to the preparation phase.
And what does that look like, practically speaking?
Well, Dexum is a big advocate for having a solid 2-week supply of the essentials. Non-perishable food, water, any medications you rely on, even some cash. Just in case.
Makes sense. Those are the things you absolutely need.
Right. But beyond the physical stuff, he emphasizes practical skills. Things like gardening, being able to grow your own food, doing basic repairs around the house, and even self-defense.
It's like becoming a modern-day homesteader almost.
In a way, yeah. It's about increasing your self-sufficiency, being able to handle whatever comes your way.
Okay, so we've got education, we've got preparation, and then there's that third element you mentioned, collaboration. How does that factor into prepping?
So prepping sometimes gets this rap of being a lone wolf kind of thing, but Surviving What's Coming, they really emphasize that it's not about isolating yourself.
That makes sense. In a real crisis, you'd need all the help you could get.
Exactly. So much better to face challenges as a community, right? Share resources, skills, offer support.
It's that whole it takes a village concept.
Yeah.
We're social creatures, after all. We rely on each other.
Exactly. We're stronger together.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about the what, the why, and the how of prepping, at least according to Surviving What's Coming. It's a lot to consider.
It is, but there's a real takeaway here. It's about, being prepared. It's not about living in fear. It's about facing uncertainty head on. It's about being proactive and taking control of your well-being.
It's about that resilient mindset you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. And that's something, honestly, that benefits us all, whether or not a major disruption ever happens.
Couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of prepping, it really makes you stop and think. What's one small step, just one, that you could take today to feel a little more prepared, a little more resilient? Maybe it's as simple as checking the batteries in your flashlight or having a conversation with a neighbor, just to see what their emergency plan is. Because as we've learned, every little bit counts. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And until next time, stay curious.